All right, welcome everyone. So my name is Rebecca Strom, and I teach math in Mankato areas adult education, and I teach both in our community center for our ABE ESL students, as well as on the community college campus working on college prep, college readiness, and the college developmental education courses. Today we are going to look at the session called Digging into Measures of Central Tendencies. So I stole this activity from an Adult Numeracy Network full-day conference that's a part of the COABE pre-conference. So I'm going to try to piece it apart. I'm going to try to have a little bit of interaction. It's a 45-minute session, so I can go really quickly. I'm going to keep the chat box open. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. And we're going to look at what these things can mean. So measures of central tendencies, I'm just going to jump right in and show this is a typical test style question. Here's a bunch of numbers, find the mean. Here's a story problem, find mean, median, and mode. And oftentimes we do, I forget which is which, so I'm going to Google it so I can help kind of sort things out. And a common Google search is I Googled it and this is what I found. So what do you notice? So go ahead and use in the chat box. What do you notice about this graphic? What are some pros and cons about this graphic? So go ahead and chat in the chat box. It's for kids. It looks a little, even it is kind of have a kid's feel to it, but there's nothing really kiddish about it. Maybe it's the graphics and the font. But yeah, it does look like a little kid's poster. Too many words. Yep, the font for sure. It's got math vocabulary. Terms are terms. We've got mnemonic ways. Yeah, these are all the things. Oh, is it blurry? I apologize if it's a little bit blurry. But what I noticed about this is it's very typical. It's a definition. This is what the word means. And now do this. It's all procedures and memory work. Memorize this word and now do these steps. Memorize this word and now do these steps. And what happens with that is we tend to get the words and the steps kind of mixed up because we didn't really have a solid understanding of what they mean. So that gets me thinking a little bit more about how to work with building that better understanding, which of course brings me to the CCRS practices and the rigor. So let's look at the mathematical shifts. The mathematical shifts. In the mathematical shifts, we have those 3 shifts, and I'm going to focus on that third one of rigor today. And part of that catches my attention for this activity is the pursuit of conceptual understanding, procedural skill and fluency, and application with equal intensity. Like we want to have all of these things puzzled together, but the handout, that graphic is very much procedural skill, and we give them a story problem so we think we have application, but we're really missing that piece of conceptual understanding. So as we're going to focus this, we're going to see if we can kind of build some understanding more of what these things mean. That also helps me think about the math practices. So just to clarify, the math practices and the mathematical shifts. The shifts are what we try to create in the classroom as instructors, and we want to make sure they have opportunities to experience conceptual understanding and rigor. Now the mathematical practices are the things we want the students to bring. We want them to develop. We want them to be able to make sense of a problem and persevere in solving them. Are they attending to precision? Did they make use of structure and look for patterns? So I want to kind of think about how we can develop this deeper understanding, but give students the ability to develop their math practices as well. So like I mentioned before, this activity was taken from COABE's pre-conference, which is the Adult Numeracy Network's conference session. And they did a Math Busters Try This at Home activity. So what was awesome about this is we got super hands-on. We were sitting at tables with these activities, playing with them. And so since we don't have that kind of time to allow play, we're going to kind of piece them apart a little bit and see if we can dig in. So let's look at this word, mean. What would you do if we flipped it from find the mean to here is the mean, find the numbers? So using the chat box, what are some thoughts when you look at a problem like this? What do you notice about this problem? What do you wonder about this problem? Any thoughts? How would our students respond? How do we respond when we have to think about finding the mean or having the mean? What does the word mean? If there's three numbers, it's easy to find. I'm reading through the chat. Somebody would create an algebra problem, multiple solutions. Interesting. Open-ended. I wonder if my students could find a starting point. So could you find the three numbers given the mean if you didn't have a clear understanding what the word mean means? Don't you love that question? What does mean mean? I love saying that question. Actually, I don't really at all. It's a good discussion starter. It makes you think about the meaning more. Absolutely. I'm reading through the chats. So in your chat box, can you describe in your own words what it is, what the mean is? So once you find the mean of a set of numbers, what are you really finding? I'm looking at different ways. Take 5, how you would solve these. So looking at this, could you describe what it means when you're asked to find the average or the mean? All right, so of course we know that when students say, what does the mean mean? And someone says the average, then we might come back and say, but what is the average? So the chat box is slowed down a little bit. And it's probably due to the fact that we understand mean means average, but then we already have a prior understanding of that word average, don't we? All right, I'm seeing something about 3 equal groups. So tell us, what can you, Charles, would you like to talk a little bit more about those 3 equal groups? Numbers added together and divided by the amount. All right, so we're kind of basically explaining the procedure, aren't we? All right, so we get kind of in that mode of describing the procedure. Ooh, I like this. Okay, Charles, you spoke for me, spread it into equal groups. So this idea of mean or average, we know, and I've read through the chat box, add them up, divide by how many. But there's a word that kind of describes it really well. And instead of always saying the average, what if we talked about the mean as a way to redistribute? So we have 3 piles, maybe they're equal, maybe they're not, but we're going to put them together and put things out equally. So we are redistributing these things so that every pile is the same. So in the activity we had the actual blocks we were working with. So in the world of technology and high flex classes, I tried this in my class with a Jamboard, and on this I've got a Google slide. So what if I drew a picture like this? The mean is 5. That means it could be redistributed, so everybody had 5. So how could we figure what the 3 numbers could be? We could move the stars. So somebody early on posted this idea that there's an open-ended question with multiple answers. Could we put 10 in one, 0 in another, and 5 in one? If these were actual things, could we have 5, 4, and 6? Could we have 1? So this idea for our students to be able to actually physically drag things around and experiment backwards really helps understand what this word of average means, this word mean. Instead of the rules, the procedures, add up, divide by how many, getting that understanding of I can redistribute. And there's that great test prep question about you got a 75 on this test, an 80 on this test, a 90. What do you need to get on the 4th test to get an 83? That backwards average question always trips up our students. It used to trip me up the first time I saw it, like, ooh, this is challenging. I had to draw a lot of pictures. But understanding this redistribution, I can put them back in a pile and figure out what the missing number needs to be. So let's play with that idea with the word median. So we're going to kind of just dig in a little bit. We're going to play with some numbers. So what does the word median mean? Any thoughts? So what could be really helpful in talking about finding the median of some numbers? So the median, I'm seeing that word middle, the halfway point, absolutely. Is it always? Yeah, the median of the road is a great explanation because that builds a little conceptual understanding. When you're on the road, that median separates the two ways of traffic. It's the middle. So what are rules we need to remember about, or some understanding we need to know about median? The median has an I as its middle. Oh, I maybe. Interesting. So what do we need to understand about median? Is there always a middle? Do we have to sometimes create a middle? What do we do when there isn't? All of these kind of deeper understanding. Sometimes we can use these stars again, but maybe a number line might be really interesting to play with. If your median is 6, what could you do? So I'm going to drop a link in the chat box, and it's going to be a Google, a Google slide. And what it is, let me see if I can move this out of my way, is you're going to get just a few minutes to play with this. I can't seem to shift this, sorry guys. All right, so I'm going to drop this in the chat box, and it is just a Google slide. There is about 20 pages, 21 pages. We have 46, so about 2 people per page. And if you want to just, we're not going to do breakout rooms right now because I want to save that time for breakout room for the next activity. But go ahead and jump in. Does anyone have any issues jumping in? Find a slide and see if you can play with what numbers could be. So there's 26 or 46 people, approximately is 21 slides. So approximately 2 people per slide since some of us are not attending. How can you play with this idea of showing our students if the median is 6, what the other numbers might be? So I'm just going to give you about 4 minutes, or let's say 3 minutes. Just going to scroll through and see how people are moving things around. So just jump down, find a slide that's empty. If the median is 6, what does the word median mean? There was a lot of conversations about middle. There's a comment in the chat box, order is important. So thinking about what that could be. Remember, this is a Google slide, so you can add a text box. See some people adding numbers in the boxes. That's awesome. Yes, if tough on a mobile, thank you. I did forget to ask that. All right, I just got a warning. I'm trying to reconnect. Let me know if I'm cutting in and out. I don't have Wi-Fi.
Everything looks good, Rebecca.
Okay, I just keep getting these warnings that I'm reconnecting. So I'm hardwired, so there's no Wi-Fi, but we'll see. I forgot to ask in the beginning how many people were connecting on their phone. So definitely this is more challenging on a mobile device. So you're also receiving, trying to reconnect messages too. That's interesting. I wonder why. All right, we'll just do this for about 1 more minute. And if it's not working great, just chat in the chat box about what are things you're discovering or what are you thinking about trying to do. People are writing on the number line. People are redistributing stars. This is a great slide. Any number less than 6, 6 is the median, and any number larger than 6. That would be a great conversation piece for our students to know how open-ended these problems could be. All right. Do you want to go ahead and for in-person classes be done with paper clips and other manipulatives? Absolutely. I'm a big fan of using something for 10 uses. If you have a base 10 set, those little squares are awesome. You can use anything. All right, let's come back to our where we were left. I'm going to quick jump back over. Checkers are also great for building conceptual understanding, easy, hands-on, very inexpensive. Craft number. So I'm just reading through the chat. If you have any questions, keep bringing them through. So yeah, in the median one, this idea of middle was really important, right? And we saw that one person who redistributed the stars. I think a number line could be really awesome, that you put 6 on your number line. Anything to the left and anything to the right could be really useful. So let's keep looking at more measures. What about mode? What do you think would be really interesting in digging into mode? How do you think of mode? How could you describe mode to your students? Without like a memory work and a procedure, what do you notice about mode? It's the most often, the most. I explain it mode more. What is mode more? Maybe tell me more about that. It's the O thing, right? Mode most frequently. That one is kind of a great rhyming word. It has a little bit of easy connection for that. And I have certainly done that myself a lot. Like, hey, this one sounds like this. And as we're trying to build that, the phonetic understanding, but also conceptual understanding, it's absolutely the one that appears the most. So if you have a story problem like this, a piece where the mode is 3, what do you know about this piece? How could you solve this puzzle? Yeah, I've been reading through the chat. There's a lot of opportunities to use that sound for mode and most. Now on this one, the mode is 3. I'm hearing 2 or 3 numbers that could be 3. So yeah, all 3 of them could be 3. 2 of them could be 3. Could one of them be 3? And why is that? What do our students need to understand about that? So the mode, is the mode, the rule, the mode that it has to appear twice, or in general, what does it have to do? Correct, no one number could be the most, it's only one. Can you have more than one mode in a data set? And that I think is something that yes, we can, I'm reading through the chat. I think our students get confused on that if we look for the mode, it's the 1. And I love doing, if you're gonna do a bunch of these measurements, it's nice to do median first because you're already listing them smallest to biggest, and then it's much easier to see which one is listed the most because you already arranged them. So these are the top 3 that we see, right? And then we have one more piece, and this one is the range. I find people struggling with range a lot. They're unable to really conceptualize this, and they don't see it in everyday life. But I feel like this one is the one that we talk a lot in everyday life more about. So in the chat box, how could you describe in your own words? Oh, I apologize for the graphic on this, didn't get caught up, not for the median, but for the range. How would you describe in your own words the range? What does it mean? And is there a way that you use it in everyday life that you can relate to? Absolutely. People ask about the age range of your children. So if the age range of your children, what are you talking about? Students find the range to be the most difficult to understand. Right. Oh, price range. Absolutely. Temperature range. So when we keep using all these real life applications, youngest to oldest, how many years apart? So often I've brought up to our students, well, if you're shopping for a car, the dealer might ask you, well, what's your price range? So what is your low to high? What are we looking at? So I did read in the chat box, somebody used that word distance. The distance between numbers is a really important understanding. So if we're asking our students about these things, that's what range is actually the most likely to use. If you have a $20 bill in your pocket, you can spend between $0 and $20. Like that's our range. So having a range of 11 on this, what are some ways you could play with this? What might your answers look like? What could you do to find 4 numbers where the range is 11? What could you play with? If you had blocks in front of you, what could you do? Home on the Range. That's a fun song, absolutely. They understand the other meanings. So it's good to connect to this kind of range. The difference between the biggest number and the smallest number. So it's nice to have that kind of understanding conceptually as well as seeing it in real life and having that definition of how to solve it, right? For the first two, I'm going to read this one, sorry. Find the 2 ends first and then put the 2 numbers between. And what would those ends look like? What Charles said, pick that one number, add 11 and plug in the other ones in the middle. Lindsay was talking about finding the first ends. Chris mentioned the difference between the biggest and the smallest. So this idea of any 2 numbers. So if we have this range that are 11, we could pick it up on a number line and slide those anywhere. So earlier, somebody mentioned these problems being open-ended. These are absolutely open-ended. We could be doing fractions. We could be doing negatives. We can be doing decimals, or this idea of open-ended problems. All right, so what I want to do, and this is where I really wanted to give you time in the breakout room. This is something we sat and we dug in and we had conversations about. So I'm going to drop some links for a Jamboard, but I'm going to first show you what this Jamboard looks like. So in your Jamboard, you are going to see, let me fix the size really quick again. All right, in your Jamboard, you're going to see this front page digging in. It matches what the PowerPoint was. And then there's rules for the first puzzle on page 1. And what you're going to do is all those things that we did do are going to be puzzled together. So now you have this kind of a Sudoku feeling chart, mean, median, mode going up and down in columns. As we talked before, is there one answer? Are these open-ended? It's up for you guys to play with. So we're going to put you in groups. I'm looking. We should be able to probably we'll drop a couple Jamboards down. The Jamboards, the downside to a Jamboard is it locks you out at 20. So if somebody is locked out, let us know. We may have to drop, we have a 3rd Jamboard ready, but I think we might not need it. So we're going to put you in groups. You'll notice in the bottom in the right-hand corner, it says group 1. So you're going to find your breakout room number and match it to the tag on the bottom so that you can find your partners. So you'll notice they go through 5. If you finish the first Jamboard, then go to page 8 and you get a second puzzle. And this adds the idea of range. And this one is completely empty. However, you still have numbers around. So when we did this, I did this activity with my students. The conversations were so rich that having to talk about, oh, we can't put a 2 there because this column needs a 4 and this needs this, just really helped them super dig into these the central tendencies, how to really understand the difference between mean, median, and mode. All right, so Marisa, if you are ready, I think we're gonna give them, let's see, 27, let's give them 8 minutes. And then I'm gonna check in. I might jump into your Jamboard, see how things are going. If we finish early, we'll come back and finish up a few more things. If you're on a phone and choose not to be in a Jamboard, I see someone who can't be in one, let us know, that's fine as well.
All right, we are ready. So you won't have to click on anything. You should just end up in the room automatically. So here we go.
So what we're gonna do, I apologize for the confusion with the links and that kind of ate into your time a little bit, but what we'll do is we'll finish up. I wanted to add a few more things about numeracy that's coming, and we'll put you back in the breakout rooms for a few extra minutes so you can kind of play with your groups a little bit if you want to. For those who did have a chance, were there any comments or thoughts about the process if you had any success in getting the links clicked?
It was fun.
We got them
Okay.
all but one.
Nice.
Yeah, but I don't think the one is going to work.
Well, they all work somehow. I just saw a comment. I know I didn't get a chance to really dig into Jamboard. That was another quick question someone had. There is a session on Jamboard basics with Lindsay coming up soon. So hopefully you guys can attend that. And then the fact that you opened your link means you still have access to that Jamboard permanently. So if you want to go back in and keep playing with it, it's your copy now. So everyone has still a shared copy, can see it, but you won't lose access to those links. Yes, I know some people didn't get a chance to interact with their group. Some people weren't able to join. We had just a little bit more technical issues than we had planned on. I apologize for that. But before we go, I just wanted to talk very briefly about upcoming Numeracy Pd. This session was an activity I was able to steal from Adult Numeracy Network. I cannot say enough good things about the Adult Numeracy Network as a resource. They are a network, a national network, actually international. They've got some organizations abroad working that are adult education teachers, working with adults teaching math at all levels, and they have amazing resources. There is a membership. It is very inexpensive for a year. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out. Also a huge plug for Atlas's numeracy website. So many amazing resources there as well. And speaking of Atlas supported resources, we've got a few things coming up. Watch out for Math Institute. Math Institute is September 23rd. I'm just gonna talk for briefly about Dan Meyer. Is an amazing, nationally recognized, huge advocate for math everywhere. K-12 is where he started, but he has now become this advocate for how to teach math better, how to teach it differently, how to build more understanding. It is amazing that Atlas was able to get him to come to Math Institute. It is a virtual event, so hopefully you guys can attend. Look for the Atlas website for more information about him, but get this on your calendars. It will be awesome. Other things coming up, CCRS Foundation's refresher webinars are in October. We've got 2 math content webinars coming up in December and March. Those are not going to be the same. They're going to be completely different, so worth attending. The March 14th is going to be on Pi Day, so there's going to be some awesome things. Lindsay posted the link to find out more about registering for Math Institute. Also, MCTM is the next one I wanted to promote a little bit. It is the Minnesota Council for Teachers of Mathematics. It covers K through 12 as well as the first couple years of college because Minmatic is at the same time. It is an amazing conference. I learned a lot. There was an amazing keynote. Next year's keynote is someone I'm not familiar with, but I've heard amazing things about him. So just promoting this upcoming PD. I'm going to quick put this down here. You will get a hand, if you want to drop the link to the handout will have all the links that we talked about today, the resources, the Jamboard, copy of the PowerPoint, as well as the full page of the puzzles. You only did 2 pages of the puzzles. There's way more in there. Do not hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. We have about 5 minutes left. I'd like to take about 1 minute for any questions and then put you back in the breakout rooms to keep playing if that's something that works out for you. Any questions? I'm gonna quick dig through. I have not been able to watch the chat while I was talking. Yes, great opportunity to see Math Institute attending Lindsay's session on Jamboard would be really helpful if you're new to Jamboard. Jamboard has been a game changer for my high flex in-person and online classes. So the model of a completed puzzle, we didn't get, this was an idea of really like dig in, and sometimes it's an idea of just like not having an answer key. And there is no answer key because there's more than one correct answer, of course. So having that challenge, and the answer key is the discussion you're having with your partner. Oh, wait, I can't put a 4 there because that wouldn't, then the median wouldn't be the median that we need at the next row. So I encourage you, if you have time, to dig in, play with the Jamboard just a little bit longer. Any other questions? All right, I have in your handout, there was, I'm gonna double check. All right, I'm gonna drop one more link. In the handout, there was a Google form just to give me some feedback. I know this session we had some technical glitches, but it really helps me moving forward and how to, like, what can be fixed and what can be improved and what can moving forward to different sessions down the road. All right, if you have time, I'll have Marisa put you back in the breakout rooms if you want. If you need to go, I understand. Thanks for coming. This has been great. I appreciated all your comments in the breakout rooms. And like I said, don't hesitate to reach out to me. My email is in both the handout and in the Google Slides. Thanks, guys. I'll stick around for a while.